I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and head over to the, can everybody see it okay?
Yes.
Awesome. So you received this one pager on coding and creative robotics. So before I dive into the slideshow, I want to kind of unpack my thought process. So originally I thought I'm going to create resources at grade level for various content areas so everybody can get something out of this. So whether you're K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, high school, I'm going to have something for everyone. And then I remembered I don't know that much about coding. So maybe that's not the best approach. So I thought, okay, I need to rethink my whole approach to this because you guys are essentially the experts when it comes to coding. I look to you for advice on all of this. I think you've all really hit the ground running when it comes to coding and creative robotics and are much more comfortable with it than I am. So instead of me creating something, possibly mediocre, I couldn't ever outdo you. Why don't I approach it from the teachers that you're working with that are hesitant to start coding? So people like me who are not as familiar with it, where do we begin? So that's my approach with this slide deck this month. Helping you find ways to work with other educators in your area that are not quite on board yet or not really sure where to start. So hopefully you'll find something that you can use. So with that being said, here is our slide deck for coding. So sometimes coding can seem very scary. The whole idea of computer science can be this kind of unknown to content area teachers, but it doesn't have to be. If we think back to that piece of technology when we were growing up, what was our reaction to it? We were probably super curious about it. We had this sense of awe and wonder. We had to have it. So for me, that was like the Tamagotchi, that was playing Oregon Trail, that was my Home Alone talk boy that I was on all the time. So I've created this engagement piece that you can do with teachers to do the same thing essentially. So you ask them how old they are, and what they do is they create a graphic that shows how old they are in terms of the technology that they're familiar with. So this kind of breaks the ice for seeing how much technology has evolved and how much it's grown and how we have to continue to grow with it. So that's our engagement piece. And then I thought, where can I build from there? What are teachers already comfortable with that we can kind of get them to move forward in the world of coding without, pushing them off the edge? And I thought, vocabulary. So starting with the vocabulary that goes with coding allows teachers to feel safe. So it allows them to know, I know how to teach vocabulary. I got this. It's just the terminology that now I'm kind of new to. So within the slide deck, I've included a glossary of coding words from code.org. And I'll give you a little spoiler now. Hopefully the internet's not going to throw me off. Your code word for today's Amazon gift card is somewhere in this glossary. So I'm going to give you a hint later, and this is where you'll be able to find it so that you can potentially win that Amazon gift card. But I thought, here's a great list of different terminology that we can introduce with teachers. They have their ways that they love to teach vocabulary. Why not build on something that they're comfortable with? There's also these really cool task cards that you could use to group people together, whether you give them the word and they pair up with the definition, or they do illustrations. But Codemoji has some really great task cards when it comes to that terminology. So now we've kind of broken the ice. We've built on something teachers are already comfortable with. What's next? And so I've created this sort of coding unplugged activity because I think it's a mindset shift when you're looking into the world of coding. For me personally, I have to physically move my body when I'm coding something. I don't know why, but I have to turn in the chair or walk around. And so I created these task cards that can be used in real life. So essentially what you'll do is print them off, and then you can either set them up in a predetermined path, like a game board, or you can have students kind of code each other by putting them on the ground, putting them in the hallway, on their desks, and then they're physically moving their bodies around, which helps them kind of get into that mindset of when I'm coding and telling the computer to do this, this is what is really being said. So if you click in the comments where it says task cards, or you can click directly on the slide itself, it'll bring you to all those printable cards. And so my thought process is you can print them on full sheets of paper and they can walk on them, or you can print them on Post-it notes or small. And Thanksgiving is coming up, so you can do something like a turkey trot or a maze. However you want to use them is totally up to you. But the idea is to physically get up and moving so that you're in that mindset for coding. So now we've kind of established those building blocks. Let's take a deeper dive into this world. Full steam ahead. So we've got the words, we've got the moves. Now we're going to work on the mindset. We really want to focus on that design thinking element. So it's not just, a one and done lesson, but really encouraging curiosity and creative problem solving. So I have created a few makers task cards to combine all of the other elements that we've just talked about. So that vocabulary, that unplugged sort of in real life movement, and now we're moving into the design thinking and the creative analysis of problems. So there's a couple different task cards in there that you can introduce to students or teachers to get them now kind of on firm ground when it comes to STEAM and just integration in general with coding and creative robotics. And then finally, it's time for the robots. And who doesn't want to watch the song about robots? I mean, it just makes sense, right? So at any point, teachers can dive in at the very beginning of this, in the middle, and the end. It doesn't have to necessarily go in this order, but it could be something that gets all of your teachers on board. It could be an entire event that you do that ends with what I'm kind of calling our creative robotics kitchen. So I'll dive into this a little bit deeper later, but it is a thing link that has links to each of these either coding websites or robotics. And it was a really true collaboration of efforts, and I could not have done it with the help of so many of you and so many of other individuals. But each image is linked to a task or activity, and it's kind of in levels. And again, I'll break that up a little bit later. But it just shows how the process doesn't necessarily start with coding and robotics. It can if the teachers are comfortable there, but there's other steps to kind of get people on board as well. Then we've also included some elements of 3D printing, because I think that's a big piece too. And if you are not following Stephen Jones, you need to stop listening to me right now and get on Twitter and follow him, because he has laid out a roadmap for all of us. It is incredible to watch his classroom and his students and the evolution of everything that they're doing. I don't know how he finds so much time in the day to do all of these little things, and it's just follow him. So he's helped create a lot of the resources, thankfully. I'm so grateful. And especially the ones that I'm about to share. But before I dive into those, our partner NextWave STEM does a ton of workshops on 3D printing and creative robotics. They would be happy to host or co-host an event with you. They're going to be at the Northern Suburbs MiniCon later on in the year. So if you're interested in anything 3D printing or coding related for an event, NextWave STEM is a partner that is definitely one that we should connect you with. On these next two slides, Stephen has created some tutorials and challenges dealing with Tinkercad. And again, take a peek at his Twitter. He's got, real-time view of everything that's going on in his classroom, which is super authentic and relevant. So it's a really great place to go for some resources. And then finally, a bazillion robotic prompts. So I read the book Invent to Learn, Making Tinkering and Engineering in the Classroom, and they had all of these different prompts, which I thought were really interesting. And I actually just recently saw another one where it challenged students to create an invention that they would send back to Benjamin Franklin to solve a problem. And I thought that's amazing, because we're integrating science and history and technology and so many problem solving techniques all in one really amazing lesson. So I think these prompts are great because sometimes we as educators get stuck and sometimes our students get stuck. So it's just a nice place to navigate to think of some new, fresh ways to talk about robots in your classroom. So that is your slide deck for the month. Hopefully there's something there that you can find useful for your teachers, or hopefully maybe even an event that you can plan as well. But now let's take a look at our Big Ideas website, because this is very exciting. So again, we'll always have those one-pagers on the front page for you. I've archived all the past ones as well. And if we go over to the Orchard, big thank you to Julie Ryan. She is this month's featured teacher, and Julie is an instructional technology specialist in Oak Forest, and her district is using Apple tools, and specifically with coding, they use Swift Playground, but she's created this awesome one-pager that kind of breaks apart how you can utilize iPads and coding at different levels. So whether you're working with littles or junior high students, there is really something for everyone here. She also dove a little bit deeper into Swift Playgrounds and Hour of Code. So this is something definitely to reference, not just if you have iPads, but in general, if you're looking into different coding at the various levels. So thank you so much, Julie. I have her Twitter there as well, so you can follow her and reach out to her as well if you're looking to do some more coding with iPads and Apple tools. If we head over to Google Grove, here is Mr. Stephen Jones. And get ready to be amazed, because he has created several different tutorials with regards to Tinkercad, CodeBlock, creating simple patterns with code blocks. So the work is done for you. You don't have to learn this. In fact, especially if you're going for your ISTE certification, this is a great opportunity to co-learn with your students. So learning from someone who's already done it in the classroom. But in addition to these tutorials, he's also created an infographic here, which helps kind of outline the different coding resources available that are worth your time, because sometimes there's so much out there and you don't know what to use. So he's broken it down. So these are some core coding resources that are definitely worth your time and your students' time as well. And then over here, he has this doc that was a collaborative document with his colleagues, and it's broken up, if you see at the top, by grade band. It also goes so far into saying if it's Android or iOS or Chrome specific, linked in here. So this is a plethora of information with regards to coding resources as well. So definitely something to spend a little bit of time looking at to make sure this and next month you've got some resources for your students. And then finally, our Microsoft moments from Miss Heather Giles. Heather has done so much with BirdBrain, but also with Sphero as well. And so she's created this Microsoft MakeCode infographic that you can click on. And not only can you see, the relevant components of Microsoft MakeCode, but you can use it as a way to convince others, this is something that's valuable. This is why we should be using it. So we've got some coding combinations here, but also some reasons why it's beneficial to be used in your classroom. And then she has a slide here as well, which kind of showcases Sphero EDU. And she's done a ton of things with Sphero. She has a website devoted to it. And she's just a wealth of information when it comes to both Sphero, but also those Hummingbird kits as well that we've been working a lot with. So big thank you to Julie, Stephen, and Heather. And then we also have a bonus ebook, Code and Create with Microsoft MakeCode. Colleen Kaplan and Kelsey Katana have created this for us. And it's literally a book that you can go through and see the various elements of Microsoft MakeCode as well. So they're kind of the gurus when it comes to this. I think this is just so cool that they put this together. Everything is outlined. There's everything I thought that I could make, but couldn't do it without all of you. So all of those are on our Big Ideas website, and they're all for you to be able to kind of hit the ground running when it comes to coding and creative robotics. If we pop back over here to our one-pager, we can see that our quote from our ISTE certification is from Katie Lachowski. And she says, coding isn't a new idea or new concept. This is taking ideas from educational minds like Dewey, who believed in learning by doing, learning with the help of others through real-life experiences. This showcases a more hands-on approach with the teacher as a facilitator. And I think that's just a great way of looking at it in general. It's not just this unknown. It's the way we've always been doing things. It's hands-on, it's learning through trial and error and problem solving, and it's something that every student should have access to. So that is your kind of one-pager unpacked. Before I open up to questions though, a couple of the things I wanted to remind you of. You do have this Steaming Ahead slide deck, which is an event in itself. So you could have a STEAM event this or next month and just utilize this as your kind of breakdown, your agenda for the day. So make sure you take a look at that. If you need another copy of it, I can share that link later. This is a presentation that Amber and I did at IPA, and it was so fun to see all these administrators running around, taking selfies, building with Play-Doh, painting with paint. So it was a really well-received presentation. And then I also shared with all members our coding kitchen. So kind of setting the table for December's Hour of Code. And it's just a website that has that ThingLink embedded on it. So if you've never used ThingLink before, I highly recommend it. Super user-friendly. But you can add these icons to whatever picture that you've created, and it will actually link it to what it is that you're sharing. So I have this Scratch resource. I can link right there, and it'll take you to the actual resource. So it's kind of nice to use as that one-stop shop. This ThingLink itself is organized so that the top shelf is just kind of the coding sites that users can use. The middle shelf is a blend of websites and robotics that you might need, some kits, whether it's Legos, BirdBrain, or Makey Makey. And then the bottom are the robots. You'll absolutely need robots in order to use these tools. And I would like to give a shout out to Greg and his team for creating this social studies and language arts unit. So Marie, I'm going to say the names wrong, Marie Donkey, Donna Kulane, and Greg collaborated on this and was gracious enough to share it with all of us so that we can, again, not start from scratch. But those are all in this coding kitchen resource that all members of IDEA have access to. And then I think we also, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. So I also wanted to remind everybody of our IdeaCon one-pager. So when everybody registers for IdeaCon, they can get a copy of this. They print it out, and it's just a way to build excitement and kind of incentivize the experience heading towards IdeaCon. So make sure that you're sharing this with your chapters, you're printing it out, you're posting it wherever, and we're utilizing that as a way to just like build that excitement. We've got tons of great keynotes and featured speakers to look forward to, so it's going to be a really great experience. Lastly, I wanted to give a shout out to all of you. We have a slow chat coming up. We have a CS First event coming up, a Northwest meetup, Wabash Valley online meetup, Northern Suburbs Minicons, Southern Suburbs Bots and Bevs. So we've got a ton of events on the calendar, and I just am so grateful that all of you have been putting in so much extra work outside of your day job to really bring all of these amazing things to members throughout the state. So I'm so grateful to be able to work with all of you. And if there's ever any support that you're needing from us, please don't hesitate to reach out. But at this time, I want to turn it over to you. If you have any questions about any of the resources that I shared, Or if there's something that's kind of been lingering that you're wanting more of, now's the time to do it. And then I also want you to start kind of thinking in the back of your head of a theme for January. So November and December, we're doing coding still. January, what are we thinking maybe the theme for our next kind of resource unboxing? So just kind of think that, mull that over a little bit. But are there any questions on anything that has been shared so far?
I do have one question. So everything that you showed us is linked to the one pager in our email?
Yep.
Okay.
So you just click on those text boxes and it'll take you to all the different locations.
Okay. It's like a wonderful, very thorough list. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. It was a true collaborative effort, though. Everybody really pitched in. So I'm very thankful for my professional learning network.
Yeah, that's great.
Lindsay, I would just like to ask the people that are on the call what they think might be useful to share out this information, whether it be a chapter event or, what are some of the ways they could see getting this information out, whether they're utilizing it, sharing it with their members, etc. Does anybody have ideas about that?
That's a good point.
I was wondering, like, how much can we share with our members? Like, in the back of my head, I wanted to make like a QR code to the one pager that we could share with people who come to our events.
Yeah. Everything that I give you that I've made is fine for you to share. If anybody's ever said otherwise to me, I will definitely give that little disclaimer, but there's never been any objections as far as people who have contributed to the Big Idea website, of not sharing anything. And I'm a big believer that we're better together, and why reinvent the wheel? I don't see the point in that. So yeah, go for it.
So that's, I guess, kind of a question, for maybe this group that's on here, in regards to even, let's say, maybe a chapter even wants to just have an online event. Like, do you think that this would be worthwhile to have Lindsay or even one of you do kind of the similar unboxing, to your members? Like, would that be kind of a unique event that you might find worthwhile leading up to the hour of code if you don't have an event planned already?
Yeah, I think that would be beneficial for a lot of different members. It's something that we can definitely talk about. I know a lot of people are kind of ramping up for December, so this would be something that's good for people who really don't have idea how to get started.
That would be me, Lisa. I'm Eli, and I've been talking to some of the people, but I just don't know what to do and how to get started. We haven't had any meetings or anything. And that's what we were talking about, doing something for Hour of Code, just a little bite-sized something, but it, needs to be, so that they can get their PDHs as well.
So Lisa, what do you think about having something like this? And right, maybe if that's not something that you or your team is comfortable with, Lindsay could present exactly what she presented now online to just the Illini members. And maybe that's a way to kind of get things rolling, because we can give a PDH for it. We could, I'm sure, Lindsay, you could probably make it even a little longer, maybe 45 minutes, and then the last 15 minutes could be question and answer, something along those lines.
Yeah, that would be great if we could do that, just because I don't feel like I'm educated enough on it, you know, to share with a bunch of people that I probably don't know. So that might be a good way to get going.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
maybe you and your team could talk about some dates and work on those dates with Lindsay. And then obviously we could, you know, set up the Zoom exactly like we have right now, send an invitation out to the, um, you know, the Illini chapter and go from there.
Yeah, that sounds great. And are you guys going to be at the IETC?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are. Yep.
Be there.
Will you be there as well?
Yes.
Perfect.
So I can find you tomorrow. I'll try to get some dates and then see what you think.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
I'm not sure about this, but do we have like a list of our members? Like for self, do you know what I mean? Is there a list that exists?
Yes. Yeah, we can get you a list for sure. What are your thoughts about that?
Our last event was less than well attended. I was wondering, you know, can we email them directly? Do you email them directly? How can we get the word out to people? Like maybe doing an online event would be the way to go. I'm trying to think of ways to draw in more people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
okay, go ahead, Stephen, sorry.
what about the idea of a newsletter plus Twitter? I think the combination of those two would definitely help get a bigger audience for an online event. And just, I would retweet it multiple times a week, get other people to retweet it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you'll get a lot of click throughs because there's a lot of people out there that definitely want the resource. And if you're providing it for them and reminding them when it's available, they'll definitely sign up for it.
Yep. Especially since
I
our code
agree.
is next month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And we kind of talked about that, Julie, didn't we, in the meeting that we had? I didn't make it to the event that we had for the South Suburbs. But in the last meeting that we had as a team, we talked about doing an online event and seeing how the attendance was. But I think too, like possibly the email and then maybe, I don't know, like Steven said about tweeting it out and like all of us retweeting it,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe that'll help. I don't know.
I think that our webinars have had a lot of success this year, which is quite frankly very different than the previous few years. Much higher attendance at our webinars. So whether that is people just liking to be on the couch in their PJs like I am tonight, plus I'm not feeling well, so I apologize. But you know, just that freedom to be able to kind of attend, and maybe they're just becoming more comfortable with this type of online meeting and engagement. But because I've seen success with our webinars, I think it's a great opportunity for chapters.
Did she cut out?
If I can just jump in,
Mhm.
for
Um,
Northwest, we received a list of all the emails from Jenna. We emailed her, so I don't know who asked that. That's the kind of place to go to get the emails. And so many of the emails were bouncing back just because a lot of teachers had either retired or moved to a different district or the domain had changed. So once we kind of filtered out who was bouncing back, we were left with about 3 emails. So we've really been trying to do Twitter. We did our first newsletter, so trying to hit from every direction. And then as well, we got a list of all of the superintendents in the Northwest. And then I don't know, it depends on how your superintendents are in your chapters. Our superintendent for Meridian was very kind to kind of send out information on the Northwest chapter to all those other superintendents. So we've kind of tried to hit it in every way to get that new membership. And I don't know if it was just
So then, Julie, that's another good point, reaching out to superintendents and having them push it out to their districts, their buildings, whether it's a newsletter or just a flyer or whatever. But starting at the top and getting more push in through, with the superintendents.
Okay, that sounds great ideas.
Yeah, another thing that you could do as well, I think the idea of, it's great to get, a lot of people on there live, but in the case that you can't, I mean, even if you only get maybe 10 or 15 people, if you have that recording of the webinar and you spread that recording, using Zoom, you can track the views. And if you're getting a lot of views later, that's still an excellent thing, right?
Totally.
Even if you 15 people that watch it, at the time live, if you're getting 500-600 people watching it later, then that's still awesome, right?
Great point.
It's through word of mouth. You're not going to have 500 people watching it if 20 of them are saying, oh, well, that wasn't very good, right? So if it's engaging, they'll spread the word and other people will watch it. And they'll be more likely to look for, opportunities like that to learn again.
Yeah, I've been signing up for most of the Wednesday webinars, and the ones I can't make, I share out the videos that people send me or that were sent.
Yeah.
So I've been sharing those out with people, trying to get interest in the webinars themselves. So we'll see.
That's a great idea too. But yeah, Zoom is super user friendly once you get logged into your correct account, and then you just get those recordings and you share them out. But like Amber said, our Wednesday webinars have been very successful. So especially as it's getting icky outside and colder, it might be a good idea to just capitalize on this virtual opportunity, this e-learning experience that we can give teachers as well.
Lindsay and Amber, quick question for you. Did anything happen with the Bird Brain kit that was going to be available to check out from IDEA? Because that seems like could be a cool thing for this month.
Yeah, we do have it, Greg. So I'm actually bringing them to IETC because there's a couple of people that are wanting to use them. So we did get I think it's a class, I think they called it the basic classroom kit, Lindsay, maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, it's bigger, it's significantly bigger than what we got at the training. And we have 4 of them that can be checked out.
Yeah, it's huge, and it's got a bunch of extra motors in it, the extra little adapter pieces as well. So it's 3 times the size, Greg, as the ones that we got at the training. And yeah, so it's definitely worth it.
Greg, do you have a time when you would want to use those?
We bought our own kits at my school, so I'll just bring those out. But it was more just something that would be a neat thing for a different group to use.
Yeah, no, thanks for asking that. And yeah, we did just get them. Springfield just used them for their Bots and Bevs event. So we need to get the information out to the chapter leaders that they're available.
So I would definitely be willing to host, a form of a webinar for your chapters, or, again, a lot of you are more than capable to do it even better than I can. So if that's something you're interested in with hosting a Zoom meeting, we can set that up as well. But I think it's a great time to capitalize on introducing coding during this month, especially like virtually. So just keep thinking about different ways that we can do that creatively for our chapters.
And Melinda, I saw that you had put into the chat about getting more comfortable with Zoom. So if at any point in time anyone wants to kind of have a tutorial with Zoom, feel free. We can help you with that as well. It really is pretty simple. Almost everything that you can see as a viewer right now, you know, is basically what Lindsay's seeing on her end as well. So any of us can share our screen. We can look at the chat windows. We can see who the participants are. Kind of the only thing on our end that's different is the recording aspect.
So are you recording this now? Like we could share this out?
Yep. So not everybody can attend these, but I think it's important that everybody sees kind of the breakdown and the thought process behind the resources. So I record these and then email them out after.
This would be ideal, I think. It would be ideal. I think it's exactly what we're looking for, you know, because they've been talking about how, you know, people are not attending, and with the weather, especially how the weather is like right now.
Yeah.
It's even colder than it generally is. What a great way to just try to get people, you know, get some information out to people. I think it's a wonderful idea.
Well, and as you can see, you don't have to be on the video, you know, to be in attendance. So it's not like you're committing to, okay, I gotta be dressed up and, you know, presentable. Like, you know, you can literally do PD in your PJs.
That's a good point.
So
Just throwing it out there too, that if there is anybody, I know Lindsay mentioned, does anybody, I should do a little quiz here, if anybody remembers the book that she referenced in her presentation. But if you do recall, she referenced Invent to Learn. And we have a couple of those copies there. So it could even be something like, for instance, Lisa, if you hosted something for your chapter, maybe we could give away one of those Invent to Learn books. You know, so we can get creative with some different things like that as well to engage people, entice people. Again, don't forget about that chapter leader website, because there is quite a few books on there that we have. So for instance, Melinda, even at your event, if you want to give away a book, take a look at what we have in our ideal library, and, you know, we can send that to you as a giveaway. So just a reminder on that as well.
and reach out to other, you know, tech companies. If you just email them like, hey, I'm having an event, they'll send you free stuff. So like I've got a ton of like Wakelet stickers and t-shirts. So don't be shy. They want to get their name out there. So if you want to give away prizes, that's another option as well.
That sounds great. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to share the link for your PDHs. It's the November Ideas one. And tonight's code word is, and remember I went to that cybersecurity event, so it's actually a phrase. It's the phrase that means that URL stands for. So like when you have a URL that you're searching, what's the phrase that it actually stands for? And that's going to be our code word. So if you fill out the PDHs, the last question on the sign-in sheet is that code word. I will then put your name into a random drawing, and if you get selected, you will get a $10 Amazon gift card. And Melinda was our winner last month. It gets emailed right to you, and then you can use it on whatever you need, maybe something coding related. So again, the code phrase is what URL stands for.